Imagine you're a caveman living in the wilderness 50,000 years ago. You have no electricity, no internet, no taxes. Life is pretty good. Then one morning, you look at your reflection in a puddle and think,
You know what? This beard has got to go.
humans are one of the very few animals that voluntarily scrape sharp objects across their own faces on a regular basis. We spend billions of dollars every year fighting hair that our bodies are actively trying to grow. So who started this war against beards? Ancient priests, soldiers, fashion influencers from 3,000 years ago? Today, we're uncovering the strange, surprising, and sometimes ridiculous history of why humans started shaving. Before humans started shaving, we first had to answer a much bigger question. Why do humans have so little hair in the first place? If you look at our closest relatives, chimpanzees, gorillas, and orangutans, they're basically walking carpets. Yet humans look like someone accidentally turned the fur setting down to 10%. Scientists believe that millions of years ago, our ancestors began losing most of their body hair as they adapted to life on the African savanna. One popular theory is that less fur helped us stay cool. Humans became long-distance walkers and runners, and instead of panting like dogs, we evolved millions of sweat glands. In other words, while other animals were overheating, humans unlocked the ability to become sweaty marathon champions. Not exactly a glamorous superpower, but it worked. Another possible advantage was reducing parasites. It's much harder for fleas, ticks, and other tiny freeloaders to hide on mostly hairless skin. But here's where things get interesting. Even after losing most of our body hair, evolution decided to keep hair on our heads, and for men, often on their faces. Why? Well, scientists are still debating that. Facial hair may have played a role in social signaling, maturity, or attracting mates. Basically, ancient beards might have been nature's version of a profile picture. So long before razors existed, humans were already in a strange situation. Mostly hairless bodies, but stubborn facial hair that just refused to leave. And that set the stage for one of humanity's oldest hobbies, finding creative ways to get rid of it. Now, you might think shaving began when someone invented a razor. Not even close. Humans were removing hair long before metal tools existed. Imagine a Stone Age human looking at a sharp piece of flint and thinking, you know what? Let's bring this very close to my face. Early humans used sharpened stones, obsidian, shells, and even animal teeth to scrape away hair. It wasn't exactly a luxury spa treatment. It was more like a high-stakes game of, let's see if I still have skin afterward. But why bother? One reason may have been hygiene. Less hair meant fewer places for lice, fleas, and other tiny parasites to set up a permanent residence. Another possibility was survival. In hand-to-hand combat, a large beard could give an opponent something to grab. Nobody wants to lose a fight because their beard became a convenient handle. Then came the Bronze Age, when humans began crafting actual metal razors. For the first time, shaving became faster, safer, and slightly less terrifying. And just like that, humanity took a giant step forward, from scraping its face with rocks to scraping its face with metal. Progress. If early humans invented shaving, ancient Egypt turned it into an obsession. Seriously, the Egyptians looked at body hair and said, absolutely not. Egypt was hot, dusty, and full of opportunities for sweat to make questionable life choices. So many Egyptians believed that removing body hair was cleaner, more comfortable, and more civilized. Some priests shaved not just their faces, but their entire bodies. Head, arms, legs, everything. Imagine spending half your day preparing for a religious ceremony and the other half hunting for missed hairs. And here's the funny part. In Egypt, being clean-shaven was fashionable, but having a beard was also a symbol of power. So what did they do? Simple. They shaved off their real beards and then wore fake ones. That's right, some pharaohs attached decorative metal beards to show authority. Imagine shaving every morning, then immediately strapping on a luxury beard for work. Even famous female rulers sometimes wore ceremonial false beards during official events because the beard symbolized royal status. So ancient Egypt may have created history's strangest fashion trend. Real beard? Unacceptable. Fake beard? Royal elegance. And just like that, shaving became more than hygiene. It became a status symbol.
If ancient Egypt was obsessed with shaving, ancient Greece had a completely different opinion. The Greeks loved beards. A magnificent beard wasn't just facial hair. It was a symbol of wisdom, masculinity, and status. Philosophers walked around with impressive beards that practically said, "I have deep thoughts." The bigger the beard, the wiser you looked. At least that was the theory. Then along came Alexander the Great, and he wasn't convinced. According to historical accounts, Alexander encouraged his soldiers to shave before battle. Why? Because in hand-to-hand combat, a beard was basically a built-in handle for your enemies. Imagine training for years as a warrior only to lose because someone grabbed your beard and started steering you around the battlefield. Not ideal. Suddenly, the beard's military career was over. Then the Romans entered the chat. Early Romans mostly wore beards, but after contact with Greek culture, shaving became fashionable. Soon, visiting a barber became an important social ritual. Wealthy Romans regularly shaved, trimmed, and groomed themselves. For Roman men, your first shave was practically a coming-of-age ceremony. So while the Greeks said, "Grow a beard and look wise," the Romans replied, "Or shave it off and look civilized." And just like that, history's first great beard war had begun. No swords, no catapults, just millions of men arguing over facial hair for the next 2,000 years.
After the ancient world, beard fashion became completely unpredictable. One century, beards meant wisdom, honor, and religious devotion. The next century, everyone was shaving because the king decided that was the new trend. Imagine waking up and discovering your beard is now politically incorrect. Some rulers loved beards. Others hated them. In fact, a few even taxed facial hair. That's right, history contains actual beard taxes. Imagine going to the government office and hearing, "Sir, that's a magnificent beard. That'll be 10 coins." Religions also played a major role. In some cultures, growing a beard was a sign of faith and respect. In others, a clean-shaven face represented discipline and order. So for hundreds of years, facial hair wasn't just hair. It was religion, politics, fashion, and social status, all growing directly out of people's faces. No wonder everyone was confused about what to do with it.
For most of history, shaving was not a daily routine. It was an adventure, a dangerous adventure. People used straight razors, basically very sharp knives designed specifically for the exciting task of being held against your throat. One small mistake and your morning grooming session could turn into a medical emergency. Then, in the late 1800s, a salesman named King C. Gillette had a brilliant idea. Instead of sharpening the same blade forever, why not make cheap disposable blades that people could simply replace? And just like that, the safety razor was born. For the first time, ordinary people could shave more quickly, more safely, and with significantly less blood loss. But Gillette didn't just sell razors, he sold a lifestyle. Advertisements began telling men that being clean-shaven was modern, professional, attractive, and successful. Basically, your beard went from being a symbol of wisdom to a potential obstacle to your career. Then came electric razors, multi-blade cartridges, shaving creams, aftershaves, and an entire industry dedicated to fighting hair. Think about that for a second. Evolution spent millions of years carefully designing facial hair. Humans responded by creating billion-dollar companies dedicated to removing it every morning. And that's how shaving transformed from an occasional chore into one of the world's most successful daily habits. After thousands of years of shaving, growing, trimming, and arguing about beards, scientists finally asked an important question. Why do humans have facial hair at all? And the answer is, we're not completely sure. But we do have some interesting clues. Research suggests that facial hair acts as a social signal. A beard can make a man appear older, more mature, and sometimes more dominant. In other words, your face may be sending messages before you even say a word. It's basically nature's version of a profile picture. Studies have found that people often perceive bearded men differently from clean-shaven men. Some see beards as a sign of experience and confidence. Others prefer a clean-shaven look because it appears more approachable. So who's right? Both, because human attraction is wonderfully complicated. What's considered attractive changes across cultures, time periods, and even individual preferences. One century, everyone wants a giant beard worthy of a Viking. The next century, the clean-shaven look is the hottest trend in town. Poor beards. They've spent thousands of years going in and out of fashion. But here's the fascinating part. Whether you shave every morning or proudly grow a beard, you're participating in an ancient biological conversation that's been happening for thousands of generations. Your ancestors used facial hair to signal age, status, strength, and identity. Today, people use it to signal things like personality, style, or sometimes simply, I didn't feel like shaving this week. Different century, same beard, different excuse. So, why did humans start shaving? Well, after thousands of years of history, the answer turns out to be surprisingly complicated. Humans didn't start shaving for just one reason. Some did it to stay cleaner. Some wanted fewer parasites living rent-free on their faces. Soldiers shaved for practical reasons. Priests shaved for religious reasons. Kings shaved because it was fashionable. Then other kings grew giant beards just to prove they were different. Basically, humanity spent several thousand years being completely unable to agree on what to do with facial hair. And yet, the debate never ended. Today, some people shave every single morning. Others spend years carefully growing magnificent beards. Some trim them with precision tools that look like equipment from a science fiction movie. Meanwhile, evolution is probably sitting in the corner thinking, I spent millions of years creating facial hair, and this is what you people do with it? But that's what makes shaving so fascinating. It's not really about hair. It's about survival, culture, religion, fashion, identity, status, and human creativity. A simple beard can tell a story about who we are, where we come from, and what society values at a particular moment in history. So the next time you're standing in front of a mirror with a razor in your hand, remember, you're not just shaving. You're participating in one of humanity's oldest and strangest traditions.